Welcome, all you roach, degenerate scumbags. Okay, I'm kind of joking here, but I'm also kind of not because you know that you are. Okay, you know you're all roaches and degenerate scumbags. You're the whole thing, all right? So, what I wanted to do was talk about AI and vibe coding. It is all over X. You almost can't go to posts without seeing some programmer or some executive at an AI company or somebody who's been captured by the AI cult saying something like AI is going to take our jobs, we're all going to be out of work, yada yada yada. And a lot of programmers sing the praises of vibe coding and AI, making wild, grandiose claims like 10x or 100x or whatever in terms of productivity. Unfortunately, the statistics do not bear that out. You're welcome to go through my YouTube channel to see some of these statistics that I bring out. These scientific studies do not bear this out. And a lot of people have counterclaims, but they're not promoted. They're not raised and spoken about as much as the more fanciful claims. So I have done some form of AI vibe coding before. I've used it for a number of things, including on stream in order to research how it actually works and whether it works. For example, well, in any case, you can go back through my YouTube channel and see. The point is, I thought what I would do is I would take 5.3 codex ChatGPT and I would vibe code without touching a single line of code. I would vibe code an Asmon Gold simulator where you have to be Asmon for a day, several days, in fact, and you have to make sure that you stream properly and that you spend your day properly and you make money and so on and so forth. So how about I simply start by showing you the game? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the game right now. So if I go like this. Now, I'm going to post a link for the game in the description, okay? And what I'll even do is I'm going to hide myself from here because who the hell needs to see my damn face while this is going on, all right? So I'm going to hide myself. I'll go over here and you should no longer see me. So here's the game. I'll leave a link in the description, like I said. So the idea is to essentially play out Asmongold for a few days, right? So I haven't seen the code in this yet, just so you know. I've been saving it for this video, have not looked at the code. We're going to do a code review later. So at this point, I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to say this. If you want to see the code review, jump ahead in the video. If you just want to see the game being played, I'm just going to show you the game being played and kind of explain the mechanics that I asked the AI to code. But later on in the video, I'll do the code review. If you don't care about the code review, then just skip that, right? Okay, so here we go. What happens here is you have to play out each day and meet a minimum requirements of streaming hours, retain a certain average of health across 3 days, and make sure that you keep certain things in check. Rats and roaches will randomly spawn in the house, which you have to take care of, or ask an exterminator to take care of for you, which costs approximately $2,000. The point of removing roaches and rats is that they drain your health every hour that passes. You have the ability to just chill out for the entire day if you so choose, thus breaking the 3-day average. Or you can go live and you can chat or you can talk about politics or whatever. I'll show you that in a minute. And then further, you can also, at the end of 3 days, if you manage to keep your average rates high enough, you'll get a visit from Trump himself. I'll show you that as well. So let's just begin here. There's music, but I'm not enabling it for this video. If you want to actually go listen to the music, I used vanilla everything, no third-party libraries, web audio for everything. I did it on purpose because I wanted to see if AI could even do that. We'll look at the code and see how successful it was. at such a thing, but it's using web audio and WebGL and all that stuff. This is all just techie terms to stuff, so let's go. All right, so every 3 seconds is an hour, and you can see that HP is draining. There's roaches. There's a little Easter egg. I won't show you, too much about it, but you can see your health is going down. Now you can pay $5, right? You can go into debt to start with, and you can keep your health up. Now, if you go live, every hour that you spend going live, you get $10,000. So you can see, right? But you got to pay taxes. So your net revenue is only 10,000 out of this, right? So I just assumed a very high, unbelievable tax bracket rate. Now here, as you're going live and you're just chatting over here, you have different forms of chatting. One of the chatters comes up to Asmon and says, your entire chat is full of racist, bigoted, misogynistic homophobes. Uh-oh. So now you can pull up the chatter. And here's a chatter. This is basically just a one-for-one, picture of actual chatters in Asmon's chat. And you can see that you have a series of attacks against the chatter. So you could just do like a regular attack, or you can just do an instant ban. And there you go, right? Now you can do video game reviews, you can do reacts, you can do news, you can do politics. They all have different health recovery, income amounts, and drainage amounts. I'm getting low on health. My average can't go low, so I got to drink some pop. All right. Okay, now the day is over, so it pauses at the end of the day. So now I can resume. Okay, I can just get my health up again. I'm noticing that my roaches and my rats are getting high. I'll deal with that in a second. Now, if I play video games on stream, there is a very simple video game mechanic that happens. Let's see if it pops up here. Oh, no, we got one-shotted by chatter. All right. Facts are violence if they hurt my feelings. All right. So here we go. And then you can just take them out. All right. Now, Asmon says some things. I'll let you play to figure out what he says. Okay. Now, there we go. So here's a video game. So now it's a simple 3 versus 3 attack. You just have attack, defend, parry, and I'll just go attack all the way. And you can see what happens. Unfortunately, Asmongold sucks at video games, so he got taken, all right? My activist spreadsheet disproves reality. Just ban, okay? Okay, now we're going to end the stream. And now, off stream, you have a number of different options. So first of all, I have way too many roaches and rats. They're draining my health. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to call the exterminator. It's $2,000, but look at my money, yo. Look at my money. My stinkiness level is 1, so I'm not stinky yet. I could do a little bit more of extermination here. Let's just exterminate everything. There we go. Sweet. Okay, I could just spend money for an exterminator to just come by and spend time with Asmon for no reason whatsoever, just because I have so much money. Now I'm going to order some Chipotle here. So there we go. Order some Chipotle. I'm going to play some games off stream. Okay, next hour, that's what I do. All right. I can go ahead and well, here we have to go. We have to go to the next day. So I can go and I'll kill some rats in the attic. But there are no rats, so I guess nothing happened. I'm going to try and capture a roach. Oh, there he goes, capturing a roach. And then, of course... All right, that's it. Okay, because of course, self-admittedly, that's what he did. Now, I did not ask for the AI to include some of these things, including a lot of the terminology, like the things that chatters say, the things that Asmon does or says. AI just added it on its own, okay? All right, so that's essentially the game. Now, if you happen to meet the criteria for minimum streamed hours and average health over the course of 3 days, you trigger the Trump ending. And there. Here, I'll do it one more time. You can do it at any time you like, but Asmon saved America, okay? All right, so that's the game. So let's go back to me. Okay, so you might be thinking to yourself, hey, like, it's not so bad. Like, what's the problem, right? It's kind of a fun game. Sure. Perhaps you might say that. So it's at this point now, like, again, I just want to say, I'm going to leave a link. It's fully playable on mobile and web. It's just a simple link. There's no tracking or anything. You don't have to log in. Free to play. Okay, there's no gotcha system. There's no loot boxes or anything like that. Just go play the damn game. You can do that. And if you want to tip me or hire me. There are links there. I'm available for hire for programming work if you so want that. Okay, so now comes the code review portion. So let's see the code that was generated by completely vibe coding. I've not seen this code save for the first like 3 lines just to make sure there was code in there because I've been tricked before. Okay, so let's have a look. All right, so I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so it did it in one single file. I did ask it to do that. Again, I kind of set a few challenges for the Vibecode AI system to see if it would actually do it. It does have a meta tag that's great. I'm glad it has these defaults. That's good. We have some CSS variables here. They're not very semantic, but sure, they get the job done. We do have this, a clamp with a calculation of viewport width or viewport height divided by 950. Okay, so this must be, I guess it just is what it's named, UI scale. All right, let's keep going. 16 pixel default font size, cool. Yeah, so far nothing really jumps out as, well, this is kind of, I've actually not, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I've not actually seen anybody write floating point free space CSS grid variables or attributes. That's okay, but sure. I mean, it works, so I guess. Okay, decided that it was going to use CSS variables for other colors, just not for this. Sure, same here. Sure. All right. So far, it's fine. Display flex is fine. Flex is fine. No problem. We have a clamp here. This is kind of weird. We have a max height. It's almost like the AI here decided, Codex decided, you know, I'm worried that measuring my down there member might yield bad measurement results. So let me clamp it and make sure that I get good measurement results. This is kind of I don't know, it seems a little off to me with the clamp, but in any case, so far, it's not bad. Here we have an aspect ratio for the canvas. We have a wrapper, start game banner. Okay, here's another kind of a weird clamp, I guess. Pointer events none. Transform uppercase, text shadow. All right, background radial gradient. Yeah, money float layer, right? That's the money that floats. Okay, all right, okay. We have a live badge. Oh, right, that's a lot for a live badge. I guess, but they have an animation. And then okay. All right. So it just kind of blinks in and out. That's the live when you go live on stream. We have a Trump banner. Man, of course, the American CSS for Trump banner is like the fattest. Okay. It's the fattest CSS style declaration. Sure. Okay. We have an animation. We have another money float. Money float layer. Okay, so they must put, so it must have decided to put a layer over top positioned absolutely, and then a div element or something like that inside the absolutely covered layer, and then it just floats to the top, I guess. That's my guess here. All right, sure, money rise. There's a health float. Okay, so they probably all go under that. There's a HUD. There's some stats, stat before. Okay, stat title, stat value, stat sub, game cards. Those are I guess the stat, like the little cards at the bottom. Okay. Got a border radius here. Yeah, box shadow, transitions. Okay. Card value again. Card pulse keyframes. All right. We've got some bars, which is like the health bars and stuff. Okay. We've got some controls. This is pretty simple CSS. Some not too bad. Got a band button. All right, we have a log. Okay, hey, at least it knew to group some CSS styles with elements here. That's good. We have the tutorial modal. We have a battle layout. Okay, so I mean, we're not even halfway through the CSS battle outcome. Some transforms, battle token. Oh, that's during the gameplay when Asmon is playing games. Okay. Chatter fight, chatter portrait, chatter call out. Wait. It put blurred for safety in the self blur box as an after content attribute. All right. Okay, sure. Yeah, so okay, so now there's some mobile stuff in here. Okay. So now we're getting to the HTML and we can see that it broke things up into panels. So far so good. Yeah, straightforward. I'm not seeing a lot of like there is a weird inline. It does add inline styles here. It doesn't have to. It's got selectors that it can do to that's a very odd thing. You've got a whole bunch of CSS. Why would you inline styles in here just for some margins? In any case, okay. Um, Lots of divs. Another panel. These are some of the cards. Okay. Same thing, chatter pop here. Yeah. Even more styles. And it okay, but adding width and height to the canvas does make sense. You do have to do that in a lot of circumstances. Again, more margins. That's super weird. And you know what's also weird? It's got an ID of self overlay here, and then a class of self overlay. Like, is this class used anywhere but this one spot? No, no, it's not. It's not used anywhere but this one spot. Okay. What about cutscene? I mean, so it's look at what is it doing? Why? Why? Anyways, look, is this the most egregious? No. This is cleanup stuff, right? Okay. We have a closure which is not required. This is a single file. Closures are intended to kind of like encapsulate and protect the code underneath from code that might come from other like third party stuff. But this is a single file and there's nothing going on in here that I would say requires a closure. It's just like a default practice that everyone seems to do, but like very few people actually think about why they need it or why they're doing it. In some cases, yeah, you do want it. But I don't like okay. All right, so some arrays for strings, a huge state object. Sure. It's not terrible here, like it's not the worst. No. 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 Okay. So I kind of understand why. This is a common thing that a lot of people do by default. They think that there's some requirement to get element by ID or to do query selector in order to cache a reference to an element so that they don't have to query it again. Absolutely. But when you're talking about IDs, you have the window object, and IDs become a window global variable. Now, there are some caveats. If you go look at the actual underlying mechanisms between why you might not want to use a window globally accessible variable for IDs, for elements, there are some edge cases where it's, a bad thing or it can cause problems. But in this case, not only have we mixed up IDs with classes where it's just like you have unnecessary classes and IDs to begin with, or one or the other or both, but now we have an entire cached version of all of this stuff that in fact I think is even, I mean, I guess you could escape out of this through a window, but in any case, I don't think this is fully necessary. We're caching a lot of these elements in a big object when we don't really need to because it's a single file just handling this. Looking at the problem at hand, it definitely defaulted to some, standardized ways of creating HTML, JavaScript, CSS like this. And it didn't make assumptions. It just took whatever would have been the default procedure. I don't think you needed to do that. Now, we also have a mixture here. I guess, yeah. So I used let because these are Actual variables that you can change the values of, but these const would be, yeah, constant. So they just remain that way, although const is actually just a lie. Okay, so here's an animation. So that's interesting. So it's got a from to start duration mode. I see. So it's just storing the ability to animate in JavaScript, probably within the WebGL context. Okay, so then we have some helpers. We have an audio context here. We have some tonal stuff to do like sine, gain, all that stuff. Some sequence. Then we play a tone. Okay, we've got play the Trump theme loop. That's the fanfare. Yeah, the chiptune loop. Okay, nice. All right. Then we schedule the big next loop. Next background loop. Okay. Oh, I guess because it does incremental. Yeah, every day the background music gets a little bit faster to create a sense of urgency. We have the Trump theme. We have the flag. I won't. You can see it there, but in any case, okay. So it is it's inner HTMLing text. Not exactly how I would do it, but not the end of the world either. That's fine. We have some health stuff with some math applied with some clamps. We have some simple math to show things like bank accounts. We have floaters and so it listens to CSS animations. Yeah, and then it removes it. Interesting. I don't know that I would take this approach. I think I would have taken the approach of having a certain number of floats available by default and then displaying and hiding them. Adding and removing elements like this could cause thrashing, layout thrashing and whatnot. But in any case, okay, sure. We have more floats. So it's literally inline drawing the chatter picture in a canvas, adding the pixels. Okay, all right. All right, sure. Then we have daily check at midnight, making sure that you pause the day. We have queued actions. We have sequences, all right, which are sound sequences based on certain animations and whatnot. Okay. Then we have animation sequences. Yeah. So there's inlined places. We have floating pop stuff. We have exterminators. Yeah. Okay. We have inline. So now see, okay. So here's one thing that jumps out to me quite a bit here in the last few lines of code. It is mixing game based I guess, functionality with UI based rendering. I would separate the two so that you could run the game without actually having to worry about the rendering of it. So you could determine based on purely looking at a stateful object or a snapshot of the game's raw data, integers, states, etc. And you can make sure that the game played out appropriately. Then I would map that on to rendering the game at every given state. It mixed the two. I dislike that approach greatly because it ties the two together, and I just don't. I would rather separate them. But in any case, let's continue on. Yeah, we have displays. So that I mean, all right, sure. So does it display inline blocks? See, this is the thing. Is like I would have just added some classes here. Like inlining the styles like this in the JavaScript is pretty ripe for issues down the road when you say you change the layout to all the panels. Now you have to go back and figure out whether the change you need to make to the chatter here, the chatter pop-up, is in a CSS style or it's inlined by JavaScript, right? So again, I would separate these concerns out and do it a little bit different. But in any case, continuing on, again, same thing here. We have starting the battle, and one more time, they at least use some classes here, and there's some inlined like UTF-8 or emojis. I mean, okay, I would separate a lot of this. Still, it does use a map for each array here. That's kind of nice to see. It's not the most terrible way to deal with an array. This, there's one line. What are you doing with this line, bro? Wait, are you even? Oh yeah, you are. Oh, I see. You're adding lines. Okay, all right, all right. Okay, okay. Okay, you're adding lines and then it's showing the log. All right. Okay, I'm going to back off. It does use some pretty declarative names. I do appreciate that. There's a function to log. Now, this is kind of so look, on the one hand, it uses very declarative naming or very semantic or pedantic naming, like daily check at midnight instead of just daily check, completed days, etc. But then it's just log. What's the log for? Where is this going to? You choose to be declarative in one case, but not declarative in another case. In any case, all right, let's keep going. So we have, okay, yeah, some interpolated strings. We have, again, style display flex here. There's some stuff here. Again, a mixture of UI and game stuff. Game over. Building a person. So here we have the 3JS stuff, which is what renders the WebGL, the 3D stuff. And essentially it's building all the different meshes. You can think of them as like little components that get put together, positioning them, using the right geometry and materials, applying them all. And then there's some logo text, which is the logo that shows up at the front. All right. I must be doing this on a canvas slapped over top. Yep, that makes sense to me. Then you've got some ratio and perspective stuff here. Okay. You've got canvas, you have pixel ratio, you've got sizes, you've got some lighting. Most of this seems straightforward. I would argue that putting these geometries and positions, inlining them, I would want to extract them out to something that contains all of them by reference, especially when you're in JavaScript land. You have the nicety of creating objects like hash maps that you can reference by keys. And then then that way you can have adjustable, like a single place to adjust all of these values so that you don't have to go and find these values within the code. So I would have extracted all of these to like a lookup table so that it was easier for me to figure out what's what. And then I could also, that you can kind of get fancy with it. You could also push it too far, I suppose, but I wouldn't be a fan of seeing all these inline values. This makes it a little bit difficult for me. Now, in C, perhaps, this makes more sense. But in JavaScript, I mean, if you're going to be in JavaScript, you might as well use some of the things that are available to you in JavaScript because they're like low cost or no cost. And they might simplify the mental model for you to be like, where did I store the positions for that, right? Same. Maybe not so much here, but maybe for some of the canvas stuff, I would have done that as well. In any case, so we could continue down this line for a while. It does this for a while. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, there's a lot here. So you can see, right? It actually does do this. It does this. So wait. And it actually has a function to generate. See, this is more in line with what I would do. I would have a set of data that has all your defaults for all of these different things, at least more of them than it does. And then I would have functions that can read into them, or I could just directly access them, or I just have a big array of them or something like that. And I just like slice them off, right? And it actually does it for Asmon because of course he's the main character, but it doesn't do it for everything else. Like, you were almost there, you were almost there. Look at this, Trump. You were almost there, but then you decided not to go all the way. Okay. Lots of like terse operations, which isn't the end of the world. I just personally prefer to be more pedantic about this kind of stuff, but it's fine. It's readable. Okay. I would say that some of the naming conventions are very clearly, I see a lot of inconsistency in the naming conventions. It does use camel case for a lot of stuff, but it's just inconsistent actual names, right? Here we have like R, like what's R, right? If somebody's reading this, like, would they know what R is? But then it goes with camera, right? So R would be probably rectangle. That's what I would assume. But it doesn't assume it for anything else. It just, it just does it. Here we have a render UI function where a lot of the UI stuff is handled in here. It looks like this is mostly UI, display, text content, stuff like that. So why not expand on this, put a lot more UI stuff in here and separate the concerns between game functionality and UI? I don't know. Then there's this one function that does these two things. Sure. Then we have an object assigned state. Probably because there's a global state variable. I'm not sure. In any case, okay. So again, it's another big object. Yeah, that's right. I remember reading this. So it's just overriding the existing state. Now, I wouldn't do it this way. I would probably just turn this into a class. You're in JavaScript, you're using a lot of the ES6 conventions like arrow operators. Why not just use a class if you're going to do that, right? If you're going to go ES5, maybe you want to go down this way, maybe you want to use object prototype, but at this point, like, why do this? It seems a bit bloviated. Wire events, okay, so now it's doing a whole bunch of listeners. It is tending to use good, some, not in all cases to be honest, but some good. Like, why wouldn't you just do play UI click? Like, why arrow operate this? You could just do play UI click and pass the reference to the button. I don't know. It does it here. Is it because it's multi-button? But you see, now you have to go and find out which button did the UI click anyways. You could just do the same thing here, and then you just have an automatic this reference to the button that triggered. Anyways, I don't know. That's weird to me. This could have been a function so that you could remove the event listener so that you only had one instance of it. Same here. I would even move a lot of these event listeners up to a global event listener so that you didn't have an event listener per item. You just had one event listener and it just took a reference to the element in question. There are ways to do this. Just look up event listeners in terms of the MDN documentation behind this. And there are very easy ways to find. You could even use composed path for Pete's sake. We're talking ES6 if you want to. Anyways, it's fine. I would do it differently, but it does work. Okay. Just more click events. Those are my links. Okay. We have pending off. Oh, clear queues. Yeah, sure. Okay. All right. Then we have animate, which does a bunch of like the 3D animations. And then there's some stuff I was working on for the thumbnail, which I generated using fully vibed code, which I guess it was trying to send. I'm realizing now what it was trying to do. I was wondering why I used AI to generate the thumbnail for this video. And I wanted it to take the 3D Asmongold, put it onto another canvas, and then 3D render the text for the thumbnail so that I could just download a JPEG or whatever, a ping of it, and use it as my thumbnail. And I guess it was trying to do a post message where you share messages between Chrome tabs, and it wasn't working. And I just said like, hey, it's not working. Fix it. And I guess it just left the code in here. So this is what happened because ultimately it ended up just recreating a canvas. Here, I'll show you the thumbnail code. Because I did look at the thumbnail code. I wasn't going to go over this, but it just recreated the canvas with Three.js, pulled the exact same geometry for Asmon, placed him in the right position, and then rendered the text. But the original thing that I tried to do was iframe in this guy, post message through a screenshot of the game, and then slap the text. Okay. My thoughts. Is this any good? Well, I'll tell you what. It took me 4 hours to get this out. Just 4 hours of just back and forth, constant back and forth, not looking at any of the code, giving it instructions, telling it what worked and what didn't, giving it instructions on game mechanics, etc. For what it got out the door, sure, proof of concept, fine. But did it actually save me any time? No, because by the time that about approximately 30 minutes to an hour in, I realized that a lot of the things that I needed to know, I already had in hand simply by describing the problem in text, which I don't need an LLM to do. Once I had the problem space of what I wanted this proof of concept to be, I no longer needed the AI, in this case, GPT Codex 5.3 or 5.4, whatever the latest one is. I didn't need it to code it for me. I could have gone in and coded it myself. And in fact, I would have done at least several things differently, if not a lot. For example, a lot of the references to the canvas, I would have just grouped the canvas rendering stuff together, or cached a lot of that instead of caching a bunch of the elements. That's just an example, right? There are many things that I would have done differently. I could do a more detailed review on it, but I just wanted to give a brief overview. So at the point that I got to understanding what I wanted from the game, at that point I'm just telling the AI what I already know, and I didn't tell it how to code except for a few things. So I told it, got to be a single page HTML file, cannot use any third-party libraries, although it actually disobeyed me on that. I'm realizing this just now. It disobeyed me on that and used Three.js. I don't think I told it to use Three.js. I think I explicitly told it not to use any third party. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll go back through my prompts. If I'm wrong, I apologize. In any case, those were really, that's it. I didn't tell it how to structure its code. I didn't tell it to follow certain, paradigms, naming conventions, nothing like that. Just go generate the code. But I would have done it myself very differently. Would I have done the same thing in 4 hours? No. I would have done something very different, and in my opinion, something far more future-proof in, say, 12 hours. But that 12 hours, even though it's, 3 times as long, 4 times as long, whatever the number is, my brain is dead right now, I would have had something that would have carried me on into the future. Right now, I would have to do a full in-depth review, spending another few hours figuring out not just what's wrong with this code, but also how I would fix it. By that time, I've already spent the amount of hours that it would have taken me to just do it myself in the first place and spend 30 minutes to an hour writing the entire problem space up front. So, did it save me time? I would argue in this particular case, it didn't. Am I sold on AI vibe coding? No. In fact, this just confirms my suspicions that it's not really producing anything of real value aside from just auto-generating the most base average code and slapping it together and giving you the ability to generate a proof of concept. Is it good for generating proof of concepts? That I will concede some ground to. Sure, if you want a proof of concept and you want it very quickly, and you just accept the fact that you're just going to have to potentially throw away literally all the code, okay, I'm with you there. I can see that. I can see that use case. However, I would argue that the cost of that proof of concept is not worth the squeeze when you take everything holistically. The cost of the subscription, the cost of the power and energy usage, the cost of the other harms that come from people who do not have the discipline to understand that these things should be used for proof of concepts because they are sold kit and caboodle into thinking that anything this thing generates is gold and can be shipped out. The cost of people who don't actually care, even though they know that they shouldn't ship it to production and choose to do it anyway because they're chasing the almighty dollar. There are all kinds of extenuating costs, or not extenuating, but like third-party costs, let's say, that come with the proof of concept scenario here. And my ultimate counter argument is that the tech industry has had the ability to auto-generate code like this without LLMs at all, using something far more efficient, far less destructive, far less costly to you, me, and society as a whole in a variety of different ways, and it would generate just about the same thing. And they've had it for about 20 years. I've covered some of these examples before on my YouTube videos. So, when you take all this together, do I still think it's worth it? No, I actually think that it just continues to increase in cost the more people create it, even if a good number of people were creating it for proof of concepts. That's the whole holistic argument. But if you take the holistic argument out and you just look at this thing in a vacuum and you just say, okay, fine, Spiro. Yeah. People have like AI psychosis and whatever. Bro, that's a small percentage of the population. Sure. Okay. looking at this thing just by itself, right, to be the most, charitable that I can be, is this good enough for a proof of concept? Yes, it is. You can get a proof of concept out. I would just argue, just expect to throw away all of the code. That's it. That's my charitable take, all right? So that's it. I just wanted to go over that video. Go play Asmon Gold Simulator and tell me what you think. And thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you check out enlightenedprogramming.com. I'll leave a link in that as well. I believe the link is in the description of the video here. And that's where I post all of my research that I do for AI and programming and all things tech and some other related materials as well. It costs $10, lifetime access, a one-time payment. I'll give you a username and password. And I have an entire catalog of years worth of material, scientific studies, statistics, my videos, tagged, categorized, searchable, everything like that. You can go search it all up. You can find any information you like if you want to have arguments against certain things. If you're really anti-AI, like I am, just the current state of AI, right? I'm not really anti-AI. I'm anti-LLMs as they are today. I think they're just terrible. If you want to see all the argumentation for that, it's all there. I'm working on doing some improvements and updates to that, or just join the newsletter on that. And I'll do a monthly newsletter. I'm late for the February one, but I'll try my best to do it. And let me think, is there anything else? I think that's it. Like, subscribe. Thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you in upcoming videos soon. Peace.